lexicon a little bit as we go to Clubhouse for this one. The Soniqs, a must-win matchup for them, and Parabellum continuing to try and surprise the world as they look for another upset.
I mean, right now, the only thing in my head right now is what Demo talked about. This is the moment that Soniqs really need to test themselves and show that they can recover. With the opponents they have this week and the opponents they've just played, Parabellum has actually, I think, surprised us quite a bit. They've been a lot better than at least I expected.
Same.
Spiker in particular getting acclimated to the league very quickly, which Jesse also pointed out earlier. I'm throwing so much credit to our analysts right now. But if Soniqs fall short this game at potentially at even worse odds than they did Beast Coast, I'm quivering in my boots.
First defender ban coming up on the board as Hibana ends up being our second attacker knocked out alongside Ying. Valkyrie is going to be the first defender to be removed. Once again, it's that trio of commonly banned defending operators there that we've been seeing continuing to be incorporated here, and Valkyrie is one of those three. More than likely going to end up with the second one of them, and indeed we do, as Solus is knocked out. That does, of course, mean that Azami is in play, so taking control of areas like Armory as well as those solo defendable positions all throughout the map are going to be a bit more of a pesky job. You'll need to bring some form of range soft breach to be able to deal with those if you're wanting to try and burn the Azami out of position. That's assuming, of course, either team is going to be making common use of her, and it seems like that's certainly going to be the case for the Soniqs at least.
It also makes CCTV infinitely more viable than it would be without that Azami on the board, because before she was introduced, teams would often just hold that position with ADSs and magnets, but the ability to throw down those Kiva barriers and extending your cover and Raptors a little bit higher, it makes what is widely considered to be one of, if not the worst sites on Clubhouse, a lot better. Of course, as we've all seen, Gunner's not just waiting until CCTV and Cash to bring out the Azami. Gunner's bringing out the Azami right now. Seeing the reintroduction of Mozzie into the meta as well, Citizen will run that on this particular site, and with that presence of the Mozzie often indicates that we'll at least have a little bit of a loose roam early on. They might not try to solidly hold on to positions, you know, really contest that second floor, but it's likely he'll at least stay up here for the time being. Maybe the first minute shoot some drones before falling back.
Are still going to be able to take care of the hatchwork, of course. There was a lot of pieces of utility left in for the attackers to utilize. It's going to be a bit of a slower process in terms of distributing it among their own members, considering the fact that they are going to have to be reliant on both the Ace as well as the Thermite to get those open instead of the usual pick of Hibana. No secondary hard breach to speed that up here either, but thankfully the defense has no mitigation to stop those hatches from being open to save for just the impact tricks that are more likely to be used over on the kitchen side. That is, however, going to be a bigger problem for Parabellum that they'll have to try and figure out. Speaking of which, Parabellum now starting to move in, take their first bits of map control, which so far obviously is going to be uncontested here by the Soniqs.
Fish moving in incredibly quickly on that top floor with a hot drone in front of him, moving all the way up to construction, but nobody to deal with. Nobody to find on those drones, just a formality by the attack to do their due diligence. Drone out the top floor, drone out the middle floor before they get along with the vertical control, opening up of the soft floor, opening up of the hatches. Of course, a little bit more difficult with the Hibana banned off the board, but you just bring two hard breaches like the Ace and the Thermite, and you'll be on your way. Johnny on the spot. One, or something at least notified. I believe that's a Mozzie pest that they just located. They'll be able to shoot it, take down that intel denial, and you might be wondering, well, Carter, it seems like you're running out of things to talk about. Well, in the time that I've been talking, Parabellum have acquired the map control, and now this is where things might get interesting.
Patchwork going to be opened up now here for PB. Like I said, they do have to be a little careful with how they try to open these up, especially Kitchen, but Moto as well as Blue Hatches are not a problem whatsoever. They'll have to make the choice in terms of which ones they want to prioritize here. There's still a minute and a half remaining. Fish, though, already starting to lurk towards the bottom of main stairs. This is oftentimes going to end up being a bit of a dangerous push, considering that without proper support, either from Moto or another angle, this player could very quickly find themselves locked into a box or just get randomly peeked from the soft wall to his left currently. That could lead to the elimination of that player. Fish realizes this, not really getting much out of that initial peek, so backs away from it. He's going to wait for his teammates to be in a better position to move forward as well.
Skies has very rapidly used every single bit of his skeleton key ammo. Maybe a little bit reckless, unfortunately. As you saw, he still wanted to open up that section of the hole, but realized he didn't have any skeleton key bullets left. But Grixer gets the first pick on a Spish. Skies the next to fall, both from the MP or the MPX on Grixer. A very excellent shot on the Skies, but also taking down that player on the bottom of main stairs. Fish was looking to run in through that ash wall breach that we saw Skies open up with the skeleton key, and now that Fish is gone, now that two bodies off of Parabellum, this kitchen hat drop and this blue control, a lot more uncertain.
Rexon with another pickup here for the defense. Laxing gets the first kill for PB, but is unable to carry it forward past that point. Citizen is available for an immediate response. Spiker wants to get rid of the Sazami barricade, so he has more sight lines into the actual depth of Armory, but Soniqs already rotated against this one. They're falling away from the angle. Spiker only being given a headshot angle to play things out against the Azami. Peek one more time. Does take down Citizen, excuse me, that's going to be the Mozzie being played against there, but doesn't matter too much. He's immediately traded out by Geo on a direct peek against the kitchen hatch. With Soniqs locking in round number 1.
One issue Soniqs had in their cafe game earlier, specifically kitchen, was not really controlling all the parts of the map you need to, not holding all the angles you need to if you want to bunker on a site, or if you want to maybe play retake for that site as well. That was not a problem Soniqs had at that round whatsoever. There was no roam presence from them. There were some Mozzie pests upstairs that slowed down the clear, but there was no actual physical presence from the Soniqs on that top floor. Instead, they waited for Parabellum to get to the execute stage, and nothing was left wanting for Soniqs on the defense. You had someone in blue. You specifically had Grixer on AK holding it down with the MPX, and also getting aggressive, getting an entry. That was something that Soniqs lacked on their defenses on Cafe earlier, and if they can keep up that momentum on Clubhouse defense, which is much harder than Cafe defense, they look like they might be able to recover.
Things looking good after the first round. They're going to continue to look good as they move upstairs. As Link's already mentioned in the previous round, we have a zombie in play, and that increases their defensive capability on this site by a huge degree, specifically out in Garage, but you'll see that in the late round as well, with that potential capability to deny some of the access points if things get a bit drastic and they don't have any other form of defensive utility or player positioning to fend off those pushes here. You can see the setup and how it's created a bit more of a difficult situation for Parabellum to work past, specifically in Garage, and as well, Rexon, no respect to the initial clear as he does try to go for a spawn peek. Unfortunately, stars are not going to align, so falls back to the usual position here now.
Parabellum do have quite a bit of tools to deal with this Azami setup in Garage. They have those Rotero drones from Spiff, and they also have the EMPs from Skies to deal with those ADSs and magnets. But if they want to use and save the EMPs for that position, they need to deal with this Bandit trick. With Thatcher on the board, Bandit is always, or well, not always, can't say 100% of the time, but most of the time brought, and should be brought, to deny this plat wall from being opened up, to put those Bandit batteries down and destroy those exothermics. So if Gunnar can waste time, he can waste those EMPs and keep those ADSs and magnets alive in the late round by expending all this utility. 2 EMPs now going out. Lexing will try to put it on the right panel, but Gunnar has completely prepped it. He's got it in time. Of course, one Selma will open up that left wall, but a Selma hole that you have to vault through versus an exothermic you can sprint through. The wall's still opened up, but that's definitely a win for the Soniqs.
Soniqs going to be a little bit happier about the situation with the wall being opened up in the way that it has been. Laxing, meanwhile, here, still with one more direct thermite charge in his pocket. It looks like they want to try and pop that open. EMP going down onto the ground as well, gives him the opportunity. And thankfully, Bandit nowhere nearby this time, so it's going to get popped. Even better than that, Grix are taking quite a bit of heat on the Azami due to some crossfire coming in. He'll be dropped to sub 50 HP now. We'll have to play things a bit more smartly in the final minute and a half here if he wants to keep himself alive and still have that impact.
But now because all those EMPs were used to open the wall, Parabellum have to clear out those ADSs and those magnets with the barn that they have, with maybe the 1 smoke grenade or the 3 flashbangs that Spiff has, or even maybe use some of those Rotero drones, but those can always be shot by Rexon as they go up the stairs, and you can usually do it from the comfort and safety of these balconies and these Kiba barriers. With only sub-minute left, 56 seconds. If Rex can maybe get a kill or hold on for 20 to 30 more seconds, this should be SQ's second defense.
Rexon continuing to play this out very, very patiently, but still going to fall victim to both of the flashes, fully blinded. Where's the push from the inside of Garage itself? Nades being chucked up from the top side here. Are they going to mark? It looks like no right now, but there we go. The second one strikes true, and a second kill is also found here against both Citizen and Rexon. Just to correct myself, Rexon actually caught on the rotate by the players establishing Overwatch to the breach. That's how he'll end up falling. Grixer ready for the cross from Garage, though. Takes the first challenger here. Knows there's already going to be a second based on the kills that had transpired earlier. This is really the only clean path Parabellum have into the site. And unfortunately, no one else playing the window. So Grixer can maintain it. He doesn't know that, though. Doesn't want to take a risk and dashes back to the inside of Cash just to play it safely. A lot of damage being sustained by the remaining attackers, but the same can be said for the defense. Nitro's out, denies the play, and that's likely the only attempt they'll get at it. However, Laxing finding some last-minute pickups. It's not going to be enough here as Grixer finds the counter, but the plant does get reattempted here. Gunnar out, doesn't get the down just yet, and Laxing saves it for Parabellum instead.
That was still a very winnable late round for Soniqs. Excellent C4 by Gunnar. The garage control for Parabellum as well also finally being established, but they had to rapidly gather. And the one other thing that I really like from Soniqs is what the Azami is capable of. You saw Grixer play on that rack to deny Laxing outside of the plat wall breach from taking down his position. That's what got them that first kill. But it was still just slightly enough for Parabellum to get it done. That man advantage, that 4v2, that is what did it for them, because the positions that Soniqs held and the utility that they had, it all landed and all worked extremely well. But Parabellum just had the advantage. They gathered that 5v3 when they cleared Garage, and that was enough to save them for what was still a very good late round from Soniqs.
Bit of a gold star to Laxing. I think he picks up some very important trades there in that late round gunfight. And is a large part of the reason why PB still ends up on top of that one, keeping his team in front of the situation, and more importantly, not falling victim to that great utility usage and positioning from the Soniqs as they attempted to hold back the tide. No reattempt on Cash and CCTV, despite how close it was. They're going to move over to Jip. This is, once again, just how Soniqs tends to play things. They'll very often commit themselves to the full rotation before going back and retrying sites later on.
No bandit, interestingly enough, for the gym bedroom. Of course, usually if you're going to go for the bandit trick, you'll likely see a castle in response, where you'll castle that gym doorway to block everything from the gym window, but no bandit and no hard reach denial whatsoever from Soniqs. That's often the strategy teams will take when the Thatcher is up. They'll either go for the bandit trick or just accept that the wall's going to get opened eventually, and they might as well focus on things they could actually win. In this case, a Cash and CCTV extension, I believe, if I'm correct, someone is all the way over on red stairs, and if that is the case, that is a very deep extension for the Soniqs on the defense. But with Parabellum starting to rotate over to that part of the map, the resources they are placing in this position, mainly a deployable shield and the Kiva barriers that'll continuously generate over the course of the round, Parabellum will need a lot of utility to make this position work.
Let's get first opening going to be going over into CCTV and Cash to try and boil out some of that extended pressure towards construction. They immediately turn tail, though. No one's actually going to work their way in there at all. Everyone fully focuses on the west balcony instead to try and open things up on Jacuzzi's side and commit more pressure immediately into the site. Now, I imagine we're going to see at least one or two of those players work their way back over to Cash, try to find some positioning in the next 20 to 30 seconds, but we'll have to wait and see here. So they pretty much abandoned it entirely as soon as they got the opening.
You always open up those two angles when you're attacking this side on Clubhouse. Even if you don't actively play plat wall, as you said, you'll go back eventually in the late round, maybe hold that rappel to make sure nobody can play that CC window and peek your player on metal balcony. But with the presence of the buck as well, as becoming clear and crystallizing what Parabellum's idea is, you go down below and do exactly what Skies is doing, opening up with the skeleton key, and this can often be more effective than a nade from below. It'll more actively and chaotically drive these players out of positions, and it might not result in a kill, but especially if you can get the bomb down inside of Jim, you have a lot of positions to cover from if you enter that execute phase. PB still want to open up this bathroom wall, still get an angle on the player inside, but as now Laxing sends it on in, the kills start coming through. One kill goes each team's way, and if Parabellum can maybe get one more, this bomb will go down.
Laxing, unfortunate positioning there as he does become victim to the impact thrown his way. It takes out the soft wall and the breach along with him. More kills from Parabellum, and a beautiful pickup there from Spit. Blind into CCTV as he takes out one of the rotators from the Soniqs. Gunnar still with some fire back into this one as well, as he has Laxing down on the ground in this situation. So still locked in a potential 2v2. If we consider the Laxing may not get brought back up. They're going to go for it, though, and it looks like it'll happen in an uncontested fashion. So Laxing, no, interrupted. So there's a push against him. Grixer trying to work his way out against this too, but now he's got a third member, as I believe the hop in towards Jim did happen. They definitely want to try and get Laxing back into the fold if at all possible, but it seems like maybe just too difficult of a task to work towards. Grixer now ready for the challenge as they try to force their way through Jim and the inside of bathroom. Gunnar finally finishes off Laxing, but another impact leaves everything on to Spiff. Was a beautiful shot he gave us before, but he just does not have time to make this one work. Soniqs are going to win it on the null timer as they take the lead again at 2-1.
I mean, I at least have to dedicate 5 seconds to talking about that ridiculous flick by Spiff. I mean, they don't have anybody on plat wall watching Metal Balk, and Spiff kills a guy in sight and then flicks and kills the guy flanking him. That is absurd. That is ridiculous.
Spiff was just like sudden spider senses right there.
Literally insane. Literally insane. However, they did lose the round, so, I mean, that didn't lose them the round, obviously, but that was, unfortunately, the best spot for Parabellum, because they acquired a lot of good control. They opened up that Jacuzzi wall and that plat wall early on. They also got the control downstairs, started opening up the floor from below, but really what has been key so far for Soniqs has been their late round positioning. We saw it in basement, albeit to not much fanfare because they basically sat in those positions the whole round. But even when they lost in CCTV, their rotations and utility were on point in here as well. Specifically, Gunnar and Grixer, the latter able to get a hard ping on the player in bathroom and win that very key fight that could have made it a 2v1 favoring Parabellum. The intel, the team play, and the individual positioning for Soniqs is winning them, or at least making these late rounds close.
Well, first attempt at a rebound now for Parabellum coming in on round number 4 as they will get their first chance for revenge back down in the basement. This is one of the 2 sites the Soniqs were able to control in the previous run. So they're going to try and change up their fate for it. Quite a few repicks coming in to accommodate this one as well. Only going to see Ace brought into the fold this time. And again, still no secondary hard breach supporting it. So Ace is going to have to open up everything. Thankfully, this should work out okay when we consider that at least the Moto hatch has already been popped by the defenders themselves.
What's the game plan here from the Parabellum? Only the Ace. Buck has hard breach charges, and they didn't pick it. Spiff gets the first pick, though. Thorn now down. A lot of that utility likely already placed, but they'll take that advantage in stride. Blue Hatch also soft from Soniqs. There we go. They droned it out, as you said and pointed out. They know they can't do it, but oh, what a shot by Gunnar. Skies trades that kill? How does he do that one? Gunnar falls off the board again. No active utility, but Parabellum have all these hatches soft and already opened up, so you don't need all that hard breach. And now with a 4v3, well, I mean, they basically won the first minute, uncontestably.
Soniqs with no choice but to completely fall back. Grixer actually having to take down a castle barricade in the process of this too, because he can no longer safely negotiate or rotate over towards the Moto hatch drop, which I think was already open in the prep phase there. Thankfully, with it being pulled away, naturally, it does give it back over to the castle, I think, and he can redeploy it one more time. So they don't actually lose it, but oh no! Grixer caught because they made quick work of the kitchen hatch as well here. We'll find one more kill for PB. Everything brought down to Rexen when it is said and done. And it's a very quick one when all things are considered here. A bit of a bold strategy from Soniqs to leave the hatchwork that exposed, and unfortunately they have to pay the price for it very quickly.
Moto hatch being opened up, I imagine, was on purpose. Blue hatch being soft, I imagine not entirely on purpose. Maybe they wanted to impact it later on, that's possible, but it definitely seemed like Parabellum caught Soniqs off guard very quickly in that early round, especially with that very quick kill from Spiff onto Citizen. Parabellum wasted time and mince no words moving on in, were able to acquire that control, and with Skies especially trading onto Gunnar, I mean, that didn't obviously lose Parabellum the round, but that secured their man advantage and what could have been a very good trade by Gunnar. And then at that point, so much of the control was already theirs, so many of the hatches were open for them, or ready to be open for them. They secure a round and on a site that Soniqs seemed to be indomitable on at the beginning of this match.
So, heading into number 5. Now, the final 2 rounds of this first half. It's going to be an attempt to rebound things yet again for the Soniqs. They'll call that last round a fluke and go back down into the basement hold here. Hopefully having a better capability to defend things once you see those reinforcements go down. We also are going to see the Cade Electric Claws. We did not have this in the first round. Once again, there is a pretty direct counter to this available for the attacks. These are going to have a limited effect as more likely try to trick these out. Everything is said and done. Spiff, though, on that Thatcher is going to be able to quickly make work of any actual direct resistance from those claws.
And not a lot of off-site presence from Soniqs either, so unless they do go for that Cade trick, or maybe they try to C4 from below or impact trick that kitchen hatch if they want to go for it, though they'd only have 2 impacts to make it work with Gunnar. Those hatches should be opened up fairly quickly, though it will require some of those EMP grenades, as you mentioned. But as opposed to, say, CCTV, where you can use the EMPs to disable those ADSs and magnets, there's not a lot you really need to use the EMP to disable here. Maybe, well, excluding the Electric Claws, maybe the ADSs in blue? Maybe. A lot of the time, teams take that via gunfights anyway, so I do appreciate the Cade pick. I mean, it's never a bad pick in this situation, but I do think maybe bringing something with more active utility could be good, but it's still a minute in. Parabellum haven't acquired that control. They're going with the full clear. A lot of time will be wasted by them anyway, just clearing the whole map.
Considering it's just the ADSs as well, Skies has the flash kit, so in a worst-case scenario, they can just have him chuck those towards it, assuming they have good intel on where the ADSs are positioned, generally speaking. Just get them in the general neighborhood, trigger them all, and then follow through with the nades and smokes to get you into the actual site itself. So away from that, though, Soniqs continue to remain very, very quiet and fully bunkered up downstairs in the basement. PB will be realizing this now as they've committed to their own full clear in the first half of the round and can begin working on that hatch work to open up opportunities to execute.
Moto hatch free for the taking, as a Cade Claw has not been allocated to it. Odo and Kitchen, it would appear. So Laxing will take that control very quickly, and Skies was very quick with the skeleton key as well. Though he wasn't able to open up everything that he wanted, but he certainly knows the positions that he needs to open up. Maybe Soniqs can take a fight through that angle and catch the buck off guard. But at the moment, Parabellum, even though it's taken 2 minutes, they have the control they're looking for, but this is where things might get a little worrisome for PB. They've taken 2 minutes of the round to get to that first floor and start establishing these angles, but Spiff lost this fight in blue last time, or Fish, excuse me, lost this fight in blue last time, and if he ends up losing it, that can often be the turning point for the attack, and the defense will likely be able to funnel and just focus on the full clear. So I'm looking at Fish right now to try and clear this position, as well as Spiker on main stairs. One of them has got to find a kill.
Zombie gonna try to rebunker things on the trip wall, but Spiker somehow able to just surf through those bullets right there and find a pickup instead. He will fall victim to Gunnar on a trade, but Laxing again, the key pickup here. Finding Gunnar himself. Another re-exchange to keep Parabellum in front of the situation by at least one player. Time is getting low, though. They need to force the issue, and this is where mistakes are most often made. Geo catches one, catches two now as well as they attempt to recover the case. Rexon over on the other side of the site, ready to fend off the rest of this resistance, and Laxing doesn't get far against Geo either. A triple on the round for him, with 3 separate 1v1s going his way, and the basement hold along with it.
What is Super Column? The most winningest player of all time?
Something like that.
Well, he won all 3 of those 1v1s, so I think the moniker is not ill-fitting for our good friend Geometrics. Excellent late round play by him as well. And what you said actually is perfect in this case. The late round is often where those mistakes happen, and it seemed Parabellum started to let the plot get away from them, sprinting around, letting the chaos consume them, and that allowed Geo to win those 3 1v1s. Of course he's good, he can win those, but they have to be presented to him in the first place. Parabellum have to not be playing trades for Geo to even have a chance at getting those 3 kills in the first place. So Soniqs, again, another good case of making those late round movements, winning those late round fights, using that utility, all true. But Parabellum definitely starting to lose it a little bit as the time dwindled down.
Parabellum probably could have ended up in a much better position there had they just moved through their top and mid floor clear just a little bit more quickly. Like you said, they had all the utility to properly open up the hatchwork with virtually 0 resistance able to come in from the Soniqs to stop it. So because of that, it's a bit puzzling as to why it took them the full 2 minutes to actually start the full execute and begin the process of opening up the triple wall in Church.
And that's when those Cades, even if they are going to be cleared by the EMPs eventually, actually can start to have a little bit of an impact, because if they're opening up those hatches at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, the time wasted by a Cade Claw is... It's
now you gotta wait for the Thatcher to work his way over to both hatches, get the EMP on top of it.
Exactly. It's not even a factor, but when you have only that minute left, yep, you gotta rotate over. That 20 seconds becomes a lot more impactful, because that's a third of the remaining time in that case because of how long the Parabellum takes. But of course, that was Church. We're going back to Jim for the final round on SQ's defense and Parabellum's attack. We saw the Parabellum open up this plat wall so quickly last time, and yet it still fell down to Spiff on Metal Balcony to cover that very position. So Parabellum not actively really using that control and that angle all that much. But Skies, he's now off the buck. He switched to the Nook. Not at all the same kind of role we would expect him to take, given the previous Gym bedroom attack, but maybe he'll just try to send it up a stairwell and catch whether the extension or the anchors off guard.
Just Skies in a little bit when he gets that opportunity to excel. Fish as well might be going for something on his own over here towards Strip, as he does have the door open for himself right now. Be wanting to throw some drone presence onto the inside of that, but some delay to build up to that point, it seems, as the rest of PB is figuring out what exactly they need to work themselves towards. Also moving the rest of the utility players over here towards the Jacuzzi side of things, where once again, no resistance on this wall for the Soniqs. They're just going to let it get open, as it's pretty easy for the attackers to get open one way or another anyways. They're not going to waste the operator pick by bringing out Bandit utility. They'd rather have something else in their pocket.
Ooh, one player down below, a flanker to flank the attack zone flanker. Skies has a nade, he can clear the top of these stairs, but the question on everyone's mind, have they droned Gunnar? No, they have not! A 2K for the Malusi, gone unread at the bottom of main stairs. He creeps up, SQ, well, Parabellum, I should say, they incur his wrath. Now, even though Gunnar's on low HP, all Parabellum have is one little opening, and albeit a kill for Spiff.
As he found from Spiff makes it at least a little bit more workable, but definitely still some makeup work needing to be done here. Aces Breach is going to be able to pop open the mirror window here, but unfortunately working their way in, or at least trying to establish an angle over top of these zombie barricades, going to prove a little bit difficult. Same thing can be said, of course, for the capability to actually open up hard breach on the inside, if that was going to be the Ace's intention. Obviously, if he wants to actually go in, he just stands on top of those and they break, but wants to certainly have a bit more overwatch against the Logi hold that Soniqs have committed quite heavily to. It looks like about 2 players maintaining positioning inside or nearby Logi at this point in the round.
All right, Parabellum, something's got to give for SQ. You got to win a fight. Grixer is just not at all playing any fools on that Logi hatch. He has sealed it up tight. 1 player on PB goes down. That means we're down to 2, but somebody drops it. Spiker catches Grixer completely off guard. He's taking control of Logi. Spiff taking control of construction, but SQ still have the site. Not if Spiker has anything to say about it. Gunner cut down, and we're back to equilibrium, but Geo, the man who cannot be stopped, him and Citizen close things out for this half, and SQ secures themselves a 4-2 half on Clubhouse defense.
Nicely done, of course, as we do end up seeing solid results come out for the Soniqs. It's a little bit worrisome there in the final few seconds, especially with the Logi play not working out for our defenders. Hoping that they would have gotten a much more obvious audio cue on the drop from the hatch. They would have been able to rotate and pick up that fight from. Does not end up happening. He misses it completely, goes down to it, and that starts a flood of other members from PB into the site. Thankfully, the 2 Insight players are more than ready for the challenge. They fend it off and lock in that 4th round. I believe, if you guys saw the chat, they're probably going to jump out of game for a quick second if we do end up needing that full rehost, but we will see in just a moment.
There's my boy. There's my boy Spiker. I love this guy. I've been casting Spiker for like 3 years now. I started casting when he was 15. Turned 18 in January. Couldn't play SI quals, and now he's here in Pro League. Sorry, I had to gush for a second. That's my boy right there.
Like I said, we got a lot of new players stepping up once again at the beginning of this season, as is often the case of the New Year Siege. It's good to give a highlight towards those guys that are stepping up into T1 for the first time here.
This guy's also cool, I guess. He's been around for a bit, I suppose. Got to give credit to the veterans, I guess. There's Spiff as well. I'm not going to gush all over them. Either way, we
can tell you come from CL.
I mean, Spiff and Spiker didn't play CL, not to, only just jumped from the amateur scene straight into Pro League. Spiff's first event being SI. Sorry, I blacked out for a second. I don't know what just happened. I sat up like a Manchurian Candidate, started gushing over my best good friends. Either way, side swap now. Tech pause done. Parabellum now going to the defense. It's a bit worrying that they had that much trouble on their attacks, as typically Clubhouse tends to lean a little attacker-sided. But let's see how this round pans out. It's always these 4-2 halves that I look at. It's like, oh, will Parabellum be able to close it, make it a very narrow 4-3? Or will Soniqs be able to win, make a 5-2? That seems a lot more daunting than that 4-3 is close.
Well, let's see here which way things end up rolling now, as the Soniqs, just a few small repicks. The Dokkaebi being added in. They're not going to necessarily need the Maverick here. They are going to rely once again entirely on the Ace to do the majority of their hatch work. I'm curious if PB left anything soft here as well.
You kidding me?
Moto is soft?
Kidding right
Skies is right.
He's going to open it up.
Yeah.
He's going to open it up.
That's a rotate path for him, likely.
Yeah, he's probably going to...
He's got impacts, too, so...
I mean, I thought he'd actually open it up a little quicker, but he'll open it up, I guess, in the moment.
That's what I think, too.
Reserve it for a mid-round development, if you will. Dirt also left soft by Parabellum, so Citizen will open that up very quickly. Parabellum being a lot more aggressive on this defense than SQ were on theirs, but oh, look at this. SQ have taken this control that has so graciously been yielded to them by Parabellum.
Seeing those shots come through there, they're going to know that this has been spotted by the defense, and Spiff is still going to be able to claim the first kill when everything is said and done. Nicely placed on that second nade as it lands on top. Nicely played on the execute too, as they're going to follow this one through. Gunnar finding a second entry from Dirt alongside that nade kill that was found by their teammates a few seconds prior. But Resistance comes back in, a lot of damage taken by those 2 Dirt players, and they don't seem to have another angle to support this with anymore. Fish finding the first of those 2 players as well. Citizen goes down. We're back to a 3v3. Skies just randomly throws this Banshee down in the corner. Geo's pushed in though, but Skies ready for the challenge. He picks up the trade, keeps the numbers even. Suffering very minimal damage from that fight as well. And with Gunnar already down to half HP, the full HP player tries to push Moto, goes down, and Laxing as well gets the read and the pre-fire through the softball to shut down this round. That was a weird one.
That round was insane. What the hell was that? I don't...
They just full sent it after they got that Dirt control, I guess.
Dude, everything that happened was crazier than what preceded it. we see them start entering Dirt. It's like, okay, fine. We'll take this quick. They've realized there's a bit of control. Oh, they've won the fight with the shotgun player in a tunnel that's about 2 feet wide. All right, didn't even take a little bit. Oh, they've now walked into an EDD, and 2 players have lost 50 HP. Gunner somehow won the blue fight by himself. Never mind, now PB have retaken the site, and Laxton gets a 2-piece to end it off. I really can't explain to you exactly how all of that happened, but my life is infinitely better now that it did.
That was the Gunners round right there. Not Gunnar, but Gunners.
Not Gunnar R6, but instead the round of Gunners. No, Gunnar did get a kill.
True. Very true indeed.
Bomb located by attackers.
Very heavy on the frag presence for that round. Just very much full instinct, I think, rather than strategy being played out by both teams there. And PB, obviously not really having a choice, just having to play into it as much as possible. We go upstairs now, where PB's going to look to maintain a little bit more control over these scenarios. The Bandit being picked up by Laxing here, so will be direct resistance to the opening of the main wall. Aside from that, a zombie going to be placed once again as well for Skies to make things difficult for that garage push.
Wasting no time to open up that garage wall either, immediately using a Selma. 3 hard breaches. If you're ever going to see it, it would be on Clubhouse, and if you're ever going to see a map in general, it would be on Clubhouse, but still not something we see all too often. That will not stop Laxing from Bandit tricking, though. This will be a very sad surprise once he hears that blowtorch activate, though. It's like, oh, crap. I can't really...
I could have picked something else.
I literally could have
He's not even, like, reinforcing it anymore. He's just like, I'm just going to put this on the red rotates.
Dude, the sadness was palpable on that rotation to right. He's like, man...
Drone's up and running.
I don't even think this is going to do anything,
he's
but...
like, Thatcher's up and they pick Mav? What are they doing? But you see they get the wall open that quickly, and you don't have to worry about a Bandit trick. If anything, it's 500 IQ from Soniqs, because you could have brought the Thatcher, then Laxing would have had a job to do. Now this time you bring the Mav, and he's out of a job.
Bit more straightforward affair to be able to do it this way here. Now just going to have to pull Citizen over to pop over the remaining softball. And there we go. No problem at all getting that one open. Soniqs have their first access point, but they need 1, if not 2 more to really have the full confidence to move forward. That's going to be garage or construction we'll be seeing over the next few moments here.
Of course, Parabellum do have that Azami. We've talked about it earlier. Makes garage a little more difficult, but of course, Azami's not playing there. It's Spiff on those garage rafters. With the ADS, there's no active utility to aid him on holding that. Azami is all the way over in bedroom, as Spiker is inside of the site. Ooh, now that's a good pick. Toxic canisters off the board. That means for plant denial or execute denial, only 1 C4, and now it's just been blown, and now all of Parabellum are starting to fall. Fish down below has gotten 2 kills, 1 actively and 1 outskilling his opponent with the EDD, but it's cost him a lot of HP. Soniqs have secured that garage control. Skies needs gets aggressive and take down this fight, but no, Gunner picks up the remaining 2, and now SQ, they get their first attack.
Love the energy from Fish there, trying to counter out the nade kills that were coming. He's like, I've had enough of this. Drops down and just takes him down outright. But unfortunately, the damage had already been done. Nicely played on the utility front from the Soniqs to get both of those nade kills from below. And on top of that, just good entry power throughout the rest of the team as well. Looks like we're going to go into attack pause here as Soniqs are, unfortunately, for their opponents, starting to run away with things here.
And Parabellum have certainly not looked bad so far. They've certainly had a lot of very good moments, so it's not like, oh no, everything's going awry for Parabellum. But definitely right there, they got open that plat wall, and they started to not be entirely sure what to do. I like the, the late round adjustments. Skies and Fish, who were over on that bedroom part of the map for a majority of the round, end up rotating down. The unfortunate thing is, until something actually happens, they're really not doing much over on that part of the map. They can go for the flank later on, but if the rest of the pieces fall on the site, they're going and trying to hit a flank for a team that's no longer alive, especially those 2 nade kills from Grixer as well. It really just hollowed things out for the attack. And so I wouldn't say it was a round that Parabellum necessarily lost, but it's definitely a round that was clinical for SQ in clearing out those positions and using their utility.
Very good stuff from the Soniqs now as they take advantage of this situation to push forward by 2 points, restoring that +2 advantage they had at halftime, resetting the scenario 1-1 since the half has started. Now just 2 more to go for them overall to claim things inside of regulation. As we talked about at the beginning of the game, and as the Des mentioned as well, this is a must-win game for the Soniqs, given the unfortunate losses they've already sustained in the previous matchups, both earlier on today and yesterday as well. So, need to get some points on the board now, or already we're going to have to worry about their placement at the end of this stage and if they'll be able to make it to the major.
And a team that's on paper this good, that's not a position they should even be remotely close to being in, but if they can salvage this, bring this back, and restore some of our confidence with this victory over PB, again, another team that I think has surprised a lot of people with just how seemingly on point they can be in not only some individual rounds, but in games as well. Of course, with a win over OXG yesterday, that should have been testament and proof enough that they can do it. Now, all of that is cool, but I really was just stalling time to make sure that Gunner stuck the fuse pick, because I saw that about 40 seconds, and I was like, well, let's just wait. pulled out, but he has stuck the fuse, John. I don't know what he's got planned, but I'm excited to see what he's cooking.
A lot of potential spots where those fuses could be put down onto the ground. Some of them are going to be a bit risky as it's areas like these barricades and whatnot, but Gunnar already popping out a few of them. We'll see where specifically he's going to try to deploy this towards. Like I said, a lot of places. The hatch potentially going into Logi. Once they're able to get the first wall open over here towards Jacuzzi, they could put additional pressure into the bathroom from there. They could just go directly for this one too. And you see the silhouette on the other side. It's very likely going to make some impact. Spiker trying to actively play this as well. You better get the heck out of here, Spiker! And he does indeed put tail to the wind to try and retreat towards Logi. Great follow-through as well for the Soniqs. They use this as a great opportunity to just pop Jacuzzi right open for the taking, and now they have their first access point.
That is the most hardcore metal way I have ever seen someone deal with a bandit trick. Put 2 fuse charges on the wall to juke out the bandit and then open up the wall. I'm not sure I've ever seen that before, and I want desperately to see more of it because that was awesome. He's still got 2 fuse charges left over as well, so if he does want to go to some of the positions that you and I mentioned, like that Logi hatch, to clear that player out of position when they go for a con, or even go for construction later on as well, he's still got those 2 to make work. SQ in the meantime as well has also opened up a lot of the angles you expect. They've opened up Plat Wall, they've opened up Jacuzzi Wall, a nade goes on in, but Sky somehow survives, just barely 1 millimeter away from death, remains alive, but I'm still looking at those cluster charges to see if maybe they can finish off the job that Citizen tried to do with those grenades.
I think that shelf saved Skies right there, wrapped around the corner just barely, and I think that ate up a considerable amount of the damage there.
IKEA.
So, quite a few gold bars on that IKEA shelf as well, so I've given him quite a bit of resistance to the explosion there, as we're going to see once again the fuse. Also a secondary heart breach here, so we can open up a path forward into cache as well, but still going to be using one of those fuse charges to clear out any resistance that there would have been on the breach. Fish, though, gets the first actual kill of this round. If you can believe there haven't been any as of yet. Geo, he's going to be the first one to end up going down for the attacking side. That's a thermite out as well. Thankfully, most of the work for him has been done, so in terms of utility, nothing is really lost here, but it's still going to hurt their chances on entry. Spiker, yet to have been noticed here, finds the immediate counter on one, but he can't latch on to the second player and goes down on a trade instead here. Down to a 3v3. Neither team with an advantageous position just as of yet, but Laxing pushes his team into pole position now, as Gunnar and the rest of the Soniqs do have control of the bedroom site, but not enough security to go for the plant. They'll try to mount that up inside of Jim instead, but Laxing already with a counter against Gunnar, and indeed, Grixer's just going to full commit to this one here. Is not able to go back into it. Laxing, of course, gets the pellets out to finish off Gunnar, and now leaves Grixer alone, holding on to the 90 angle as well, creeping ever so closer to Logi. There's one, 2 more to go. Another one picked up on a triple overall for the round. 1v1, and Laxing, of course, already heavily injured, so he'll play this back ever so passively, force Laxing to play this out. Grixer beautifully played up to this point and beautifully played to the end as well, as he gets a massive clutch on the board for the Soniqs.
I mean, I'm not going to shout out Grixer for a second. You know where I am going to shout out?
Who?
I'm going to shout out Gunnar. You want to know why?
What's that?
Because as he's trying to cover 3 different angles that the defense is peeking from, he flicks above a Kiba barrier in construction and puts Laxing to 1 HP. Now, to be fair, 2 of the remaining PB defenders were already low on health in that match, but because Gunnar flicked and put Laxing down to such low HP, that made that clutch and the ability to waste time and get those kills for Grixer so much more easier that he didn't have to worry about a full health mute shotgun swinging him at Mach 5 from around a corner. But of course, gotta give it to Grixer for actually clutching that round out in the first place, and there were some bright spots for PB, especially Spiker could have maybe gotten that second kill and nipped the attack in the bud, but unfortunately, such a huge play from Soniqs to now put them on match point.
Sticking it inside of the 1vx as well ends up being the correct decision there. A lot of paranoia had to be lurking in his mind. It's like, okay, they're going to swing me at 90. I'm going to be dead halfway through this plant. It's over. It's over. I got to get off. But no, held firm, kept himself on that plant, got it down to the ground, and reversed the scenario, put the pressure on the PB instead, and that put him in the game state to win it out and put his team up on a 6-3 lead now with just 1 more round to go.
Drone active.
Soniqs bringing this Maverick again, not for CCTV and cache this time, but for basement. Also bringing the hard breach charges. Actually, for basement, quite a lot of hard breaching being brought by SQ. The Maverick in particular with no Cade on the board, maybe just playing it safe. Of course, the Hibana is banned, but want to make sure they truly have everything to open up, and that means they can also use those Soma charges to open up if the dirt wall if it was reinforced, but mainly the church wall. That's at bottom main to make sure they get an angle to stop Gio from playing that position that he got that 3K on when Soniqs were on the defense. That spot can always be difficult to deal with, and with those Selma charges and using that Maverick and that Buck to open up the hatches, they can make that work. By the way, Romans have also gone back to site, so a lot of what we'll see will be how they use that Maverick, that Buck, and that Ace in the mid-round.
All right, well, an opening going to be made here from Soniqs to be able to get themselves into blue with some access there. And in the meanwhile as well, going to pop his way back around as he has more work to do in terms of the hatch work. Citizen has pretty much completed things on the upstairs clears. They'll know they won't have much resistance from there. And PB overall not going to be too keen on peeking themselves out inside of the early round. They play full bunker setup for this one. So it's all on the Soniqs and their pacing in terms of how they try to get into the site that will determine how successful they will be.
Minute 30 now gone. A couple impacts, specifically, well, only 2, so literally a couple impacts for Parabellum. Gio will wait, see if the impacts were there, but none appear, so instead he'll just use those 2 Selma charges to open up the hatch. That does mean he now only has 1 for that church wall if they do want to go for that execute and take down bottom main, but he can still open up a very powerful angle just with that 1 Selma. Also, shout out to Grixer going for a 2-floor deep vertical angle all the way from logistics. If they do end up getting that bomb down, that could watch a key rotation in through the site. Of course, that still maybe about 40, maybe even 50 seconds away if SQ are really slow with it. Still a 5v5, so the moment they walk down those stairs, unless they get a kill, they'll barrel straight into the defense. Well, with the gunner on main stairs, he'll be the main one looking to create an man advantage for his team.
Flash is being dumped in. Soniqs want full control, and Gio wasting absolutely no time with the plant. Goes right in through the breach and slaps it down on the ground. Kills are rolling in as well, but they're starting to go the other way. However, the plant has been completed. They don't even notice Gio throwing that thing down. Sneaks it right in and gets a kill behind it. Grixer with 1 more. Down to 2 for the defense now. And Smith already heavily injured. Fish yet to find himself a position in this fight. Smith, however, finds success on his first refrag to try and take back some control. Fish, though, dead to rights. Everything down to Smith now in the 1v3. And Rexon already throwing out the GG as well here. About 10 seconds left for Spiff to even get onto that case and find the counter. But as you can see, top-down angles already established. The GG is not entirely inaccurate, as once again, the Soniqs shut it down and take full control of the matchup.
For those of you that haven't been paying attention to SQ in a while, that's a strategy that they were the first team I saw. Just open up that part of the wall and immediately sprint on and plant on the pillar. And it executes like that with the coordination that they have, that when this team is performing on point, like against Parabellum, that they are a force to be feared.
A must-win game, and they give us exactly that, ladies and gentlemen. So another matchup done. Do stick with us, though, as in just a few moments, right after the break, we're going to have your analysis desk ready to break things down as the Soniqs finally find solid footing in a match along with it.